Jake Brown does a really good job. SNY Knicks blog, writes for The Fan as well. SiriusXM NFL producer. He's a man of many hats. He's kind enough to join me on a Friday on the Boardwalk Honda Hotline. What's going on, Jake?
What's up, Rich? How you doing, man?
I'm doing well, pal. I'm doing well. Appreciate a couple moments. All right, let's start with the Knicks. They're in your backyard as well. And listen, you thought maybe they were going to catch a break. It's not 1985 revisited, but the bottom line is we kind of know where the Knicks are going to be come draft time. I think the clock is already on Fizdale when you think about it. How far off is this franchise from just being competitive and what we've seen transpire over the last several years? I mean, give a little hope to a Knicks fan here.
Well, a lot of that's going to depend on what happens this off season. I think they've made the right decision. David Fizdale, the guy's been in the league since he was 23. He started coaching right out of college, so the guy's been coaching forever. He gets high regards from LeBron and the Heat and the guys he coached on the Grizzlies, not named Marcus Gasol. And I think they made the right decision for once with the coach. I think the Jeff Hornacek hiring came out of nowhere, so I think this was a step in the right direction. I think this is about a 2-year window until this is maybe a competitive team in terms of making the playoffs. I mean, that's just getting in. Championship aspirations are still probably
no
3
doubt.
to 4 years. Yeah, I mean, that's not even on the radar at this point. But it depends what they do in the draft. It depends on how they spend and what Canada's going to do and how Porzingis comes back from this injury. People don't realize that overseas they don't play long seasons. Frank Ntilikina was playing like 20 games a year. When you play 80 games and you're not built, Porzingis is not built at all. You can't do that grind of every single day playing and going 82 games strong. So we need to see Porzingis come back because he could be the cornerstone of the franchise and all, but if he can't play more than 60 games a year, that's not a franchise player. You need him out there every day. So we'll see what they do this summer. This is going to be the summer that determines how we're going to answer that question, actually.
It's a great point. I think a lot of it hinges on the health of Porzingis going forward. I mean, this is a team a couple years removed. Listen, we know how bad it's been with this team over the last several years. You go back 2014 and 15, and then we saw what's transpired over the last several years. And this year, you just had a lot of players, younger players. You had some journeyman guys. That's one of the reasons they won 29 games. They finished 29 and 53. You knew Hornacek was in over his head, and they had to do something. I just look at, for a team like the Knicks, and the Sixers dealt with it in our backyard as well, Jake. They had to start winning and being competitive to attract top free agents. And again, I'm on the same line of thinking as you are. 2-3 years, at least if you can play competitive basketball, you're not landing LeBron. I don't think that's happening. But maybe next year you can attract a big-time free agent. I'm just more concerned about the front office going forward and the way they've constructed this team over the last several years. I mean, you listen to what Scott Perry has to say, then what he doesn't say. We always talk about transparency. And I know the Fizdale hire is not a sexy one, and people didn't want the retread, so to speak. But I just think this team is going to be stuck for the next 3 to 5 years of just 25, 30 wins a year.
Yeah, I mean, I think I trust Scott Perry much more than the guys before. I trust him more than when Steve Mills runs the show. I think Steve Mills he misses running the show a little bit. He wants to be that head honcho, but I've brought Scott Perry in. I just think, it seems like LeBron has to leave the conference in order for them to do anything. We'll see where he winds up. Maybe that pipe dream of him going to Philly is true. I don't see him ever coming to New York. But I think they're in the right direction in terms of getting this thing right, and I think they know it's going to take time. But the issue is, why is this here? Is this is New York City, and this team hasn't won in forever already.
Yep.
So you're going to tell a fan base that, hey, let's wait another 3 to 4 years. This team hasn't been a winner since Allen Houston left the building, and Jeff Van Gundy just quit the job in 2000.
Right.
So it's been almost 20 years. I mean, it's been 18 years.
Far cry from that ball going in Miami in Game 5. Far cry.
I mean, that's the last glory days, and we're talking about the mid-2000s. Oh, a first-round exit with Stephon Marbury at point guard. And then we talk about the year with Melo and when J.R. Smith was getting more points than flagrant fouls, unlike Game 2. That year was special. But other than that 1 year, maybe 2 years sprinkled in since Y2K in 2000, this team has been garbage. So asking them to wait 4 to 5 more years in New York City in the Mecca, Madison Square Garden, sure, you're going to sell tickets to the corporate suits, but the real fans like me and real Knicks fans, don't want to keep waiting. So I don't buy into this whole 4 to 5 year window and people telling me, oh, give Frank Ntilikina time, give these guys time. Get guys that are ready to win now. If it's going to take 2 or 3 years, okay, but enough of this 4 to 5 years later until this team is competitive. This isn't Kansas City. This isn't Cleveland. This isn't a small market. This is New York City. This is the Mecca. So you got to right the ship here.
What's your sentiment overall with the NBA playoffs and Boston up 2-0 on Cleveland? I mean, we were just talking about some of the role players eventually have to step up for LeBron. He can't do it all by himself. And then over in the Western Conference, Houston shows up in Game 2. Now it looks like it might be a series. I still like Golden State, but how do you handicap the Eastern and Western Conference Finals?
I'm very surprised that the Celtics have just put the down that they have, and it seemed like the LeBron near concussion, that's when the game changed completely, because it was stealth, like LeBron, like superpower, Superman mode, that first quarter and a half of that. I mean, he was just absolutely dominating, and I was telling people I was working with them, like, he might score 65, 70 points tonight, and then that completely changed, and they shut him down, and it's just a testament to how Brad Stevens kind of got robbed as coach of the year. What he has done without now Kyrie Irving and Gordon Hayward is absolutely remarkable. And we give Brad Stevens a lot of credit. Let's give credit to these guys, this youth, this roster that the Celtics have, these guys that they've drafted, and Danny Ainge's job, because Tatum is going to be a stud, already is. Jaylen Brown is a stud. Scary Terry is really scary because this guy's lighting up, making plays left and right, getting the crowd into it. This team hasn't lost at home. I mean, they're unstoppable in Boston. So let's give the Celtics credit. I think the Cavs are going to turn this thing around here in Game 3. And as I said before, maybe J.R. Smith gets more points than flagrant fouls, which is just ludicrous that even happened. But I do think the Cavs will win Game 3 and make this a series. I said Cavs in 7. I'm going to stick with that.
Okay.
I think LeBron's really going to enter that mode. In the West, I think the Warriors are going to win the series, but it's going to be interesting because when the Rockets are nailing threes, when Eric Gordon's scoring like he did, and these guys and PJ Tucker, when these guys are scoring like they are, they're dangerous, but I don't see that lasting a full series. So I think the Wolves are winning this series, but I think the Rockets are going to make this thing interesting because these are two just dynamic offenses that could light it up. And the over-under, I mean, we could talk betting now that it's legal. It's going to be
right in my wheelhouse.
I mean, man, it should be 250 points the over-under, right. And you would bet the under, but you're not allowed to win at 250.
Yeah.
So we'll see. I mean, I think the Warriors are the better team overall, but the Rockets, if they just keep draining threes and outscore these guys, they're going to make this interesting. I really think both these series will go 7.
Wow. A couple minutes with Jake Brown again. Good follow on Twitter at Jake Brown Radio, SNY Knicks blog, WFAN writer, SiriusXM, NFL producer. So the man with many hats, really grinding it and hustling out there. A couple minutes on the Boardwalk Honda Hotline. You know, it's funny that you mentioned, well, you know what? I'll leave you with this. I'll get your thoughts on this with the whole sports gambling. We've been having, it's not even an argument. It's really not too much of a debate, but the sentiment that more college kids might be inclined now to point shaving, which has been going on for years. We know that. You can go back to the 50s, the 60s, 70s, everything at Boston College and Rhode Island. I mean, it's just, it's never going away. But now that it's legalized, do you think eventually the NFL will just kind of follow suit of what we believe the NBA is going to do, and Adam Silver, who's a little more forward thinker, more progressive commissioner, where, you know what, let's all get on board, because at the end of the day, we can really monetize and make some money from this. Even though the NFL, they're the biggest hypocrites in the world, do you think eventually they're just going to say, you know what, we're resigned to this fact. We know people are gambling on these games. We're not too concerned about the players or the refs doing it. We'll figure out a way to make it work.
Oh, of course, and they knew bookies were getting paid up the wazoo, and you have all these fantasy sites and DraftKings and all that. These guys are all in, and the NFL, while you say they're hypocrites, they're all about the almighty dollar, no matter what it is and what it takes, and this thing is going to blow through the roof. This is going to be billions and billions of dollars. They should follow suit and allow medical marijuana, but that's a whole other story for another day. But I really think they are, and I think it's going to change everything. I think there's going to be a lot of issues with it in terms of, as you said, point shaving and players getting involved. I'm not a huge fan of it in terms of legalizing at the college level, because these unpaid college players could make a pretty penny if they do a couple of things secretly that they shouldn't be doing. So college, I'm a little worried about it, but there's no doubt. Like, I can't wait till I can go to a game and it's like you're at Saratoga, and you can just put a bet in at the stadium for your team, and that's going to make. I mean, you can't even describe how much money is going to be involved. As soon as it happened, there's people jumping for joy and bookies ready to find a new side gig.
Yeah, it's going to be unprecedented. Jake, good stuff, pal. Appreciate we got you back on the air. Congrats on everything that you're doing as well with SNY and the Fan and, of course, the blog and covering the Knicks. I appreciate it. We'll get you back on, pal. Appreciate a couple moments on a Friday.
Thanks, Rich. Appreciate it. Enjoy the weekend.
You got it. Be well. Jake Brown at Jake Brown Radio joining us on the Boardwalk Hotline.